All right, let's get started. Hi, my name is Jonathan Aguero, and it's my pleasure to host today's webinar with Mark on behalf of Black Pearl. Black Pearl is a simple, powerful dealership management app. In fact, it's the world's only dealer app that runs in the palm of your hand. Today, we'll be talking about how the best dealerships succeed in the face of economic uncertainty. And it's my pleasure to be here with Marc Storey here today. Marc's been part of the dealership world for about 40 years, starting from his early days as a diesel mechanic through his 30 years of dealership ownership, most recently being a board member on the Harley-Davidson Motorcycle Dealer Council. In his career, Marc has spent the requisite time diving into every single department of a dealership, learning exactly what it takes to make a successful store. Today, he coaches other dealerships and teaches them how to find their most profitable dealership fundamentals. Welcome, Marc.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate that introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here to talk about an industry that I'm very passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about how to improve dealership performance today. We're going to be covering three key topics. Number one, which performance data should we be looking at and why? Number two, how to use that data to create better decisions. And number three, how do we use what we've learned to create a paradigm shift in our dealership and to drive a sustainable and more profitable process? I'd like to remind everyone that we're going to be taking questions here. So that chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, feel free to enter a question there, and we'll answer all of the questions at the end of the webinar. So let's get right into it. We're here to talk about how the top dealerships succeed. So Marc, how do they?
Well, look, yeah, that's a really big question, and it's an excellent question. But I'd start by saying one thing that top dealerships do, they don't wait for uncertain times. They don't wait for market changes. They're always monitoring their performance in a certain way in real time, but not all dealers do. And that's not a failing. It's just they've developed a more acute and focused way of looking at their data because, one thing we do know about this industry, it's one of the, I think it's one of the most over-measured industries known to man. There's productivity, efficiency, you name it. There's hundreds of different minute reporting details in this industry, and are they important to us? Well, look, maybe sometimes they are, but I believe that these old-fashioned entrenched habits have diverted dealers away from really monitoring what is important. And what top dealers do is they keep their focus on cash generation. Now, don't get me wrong, every dealer who'd be succeeding in today's environment or still in business, they know how to do the tasks. They know how to book customers in. They know how to meet and greet. They know how to advertise. There's a million tasks, but that's a task focus on business management. And over time, they forget about the cash generation focus. And that's the part that we really want to spend some time talking about today. Top dealers do focus on that cash generation focused first and foremost. The task focus is not put to one side. It's important, but it isn't the key. The big question that I ask every dealer within the first 5 or 10 minutes of having a chat with them is what resources, what tools, and what culture do they have in their business to turn that data, that huge amount of data that we collect, turn that into information that really means something that all employees understand. Now, if they don't have those resources, those tools, or that culture, that's the first place to start.
That makes a lot of sense. So what does that look like across your dealership? How do you measure and collect this data? Well, look,
the data is collected. Let's be honest. This industry is 100 years old. Computers have been, for 40 years, 30 definitely. We've had computers and we've seen many iterations of hardware upgrades. But the software available today, they all do that wonderfully. They probably do it too well. So don't worry about collecting the data. You're already doing it. unless you've got a manual system, but no one does. So the data is there. And it's the old saying, data is just a whole lot of numbers on a piece of paper. Information is understanding what that data is telling you. So what I focus on and what I really work with my friends and with dealers who I'm helping move forward is look at what is generating cash, what is generating gross profit. Now, not necessarily looking at the GP, gross profit percentage, or any of that, parts per labour hour and all that, millions of little pieces of information. Think about it. Let's back this right back, pare it back. What is it that we do in our dealerships? We really sell three things, three main things. We sell new and used motorcycles, we sell spare parts, we sell labour. Yeah, there's some other things, there's finance, insurance, but they're the three things. Now, are you taking from the data you collect on a daily basis what cash has been generated from each of those three functions and feeding it back to your employees immediately? That's what we do. There's other things, but they're the three keys.
Now, you say feeding that to your employees. A lot of dealerships want to keep that from their employees. They don't share their employees how much they're generating. But you say flip that on its head. You say let the employees know exactly how much cash they're responsible for. Is that right?
Well, no, not necessarily. Is the absolute figure that important? No. Every dealer has a budget. They understand what the employee has to do, what their main function is, and what their target is. You just need to let them know, are they 100% a target? Are they 95% a target? Are they 110? If they're 110, 120% a target, all of a sudden you've got a means of measuring their performance, not based on how busy they look, but how much money they make for you. And we really miss that point in our day-to-day activity. So you don't have to tell them how many dollars. You just feed back to them, you're 95% of target. And staff understand that they have to earn money. They know that. Why hide it from them? And this is the problem. We've got this top-down management approach that's entrenched from 50 years of habit.
Yeah.
And we've moved way past a point in time where that actually works. It's got to be from the bottom up.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. So at your dealership, what exactly do you measure? I know you've talked a lot about measuring only 10 things about a dealership. Share more with us.
Look, it's about 10. I've got to be honest with you, but that's all. They're the important things. Now, let's not bog down on that 10 because that'll take some time to go through each one. But let's just look at the three key ones, and I've already alluded to them. But what gross profit dollars? This is dollars. Money in the bank. Does the salesperson generate each day? And look at we spend all our time telling them, oh, you've got to do 30 units this month. You've got to get 30% market share, and all. Units rolling out the curb doesn't pay the bills. Market share doesn't pay the bills. It's cash. And if your salesman's good enough to generate enough cash to justify their existence in 2 deals, well, what's wrong with that? And see, it's a paradigm change. We're forgetting why we're in business. We're in business to stay in business. To do that, we must generate enough cash to pay our bills. Same thing applies for technicians. The only thing that matters is their prime cost of labour $30 an hour? Are we getting 90 back? If for $1,000 of gross labour in a week, are they selling 3,000? If you've got a 3-to-1 ratio going on there, that's pretty good. Everything else is going to work out. Just need these simple measurements. So your top tech that you're paying big money, well, he's got to generate more. The apprentice that paying less, he's got to generate less. And the same applies for your parts people. What is the gross profit dollar target that they have to generate?
That's great. What you're saying is that you set a dollar target for each employee, and then you give consistent, timely feedback so they can adjust. Is that fair summation?
Exactly. Look, I've got a wonderful sporting analogy that seems to resonate with people, and I'd like to share it. You think of a football match. Now, Football depends on the country you live in. Here it's rugby league. If you're in Europe, it's what we call soccer. US, it's gridiron. But at the end of the day, let's just pick a football match. Now, we measure everything that goes on in that match. You know, how many yards carried, how many intercepts, how many incomplete passes. This goes on, the amount of data. Do we watch that during the game? No. It's there for later if we have a problem and we want to go and work out what the problem was. And the only problem is if we don't hit our target, if we don't win. In the dealership, what matters during the match? There's only, you know, the football match, time left on the score, on the timer, and what is the score? So day to day, all the employees need to know is how many dollars do they have to generate to justify their existence, and how are they performing against that? You can do that in lots of different ways, but they don't need a ream of reports this thick at a week after the end of the month, 40-day-old data. It's too late. They haven't had time to adjust their behaviour. They need it daily.
That makes a lot of sense. So, you know, we're talking about this data. If you are right now a poorly performing dealership, how do we change? Well,
you know, the end of the day, change management is not something that's unique to auto dealers. Let's be honest. It's a problem in business. It's a problem in humans because we aren't so good at making change. We like the comfort of the status quo. So, number one, the absolute first start for a poor performing dealer is to recognise that they have a problem and that they want to change it. And that comes from the top. Unless the owner says, you know what, this isn't good enough, I want this to change. So that's the first thing. And then look, you know, once you've moved past that point, then the ego doesn't get in the way because it's tough. If you've been a great dealer or you've been in business for a long time and it's been good to you, it's a bit of a blow to the ego that, hey, things have changed, the market's moved, the world's moved on, and I've got left behind a little bit. Give yourself a break. Don't beat yourself up. Don't let your ego get in the way so you don't admit it. But, you know, reach out to somebody that actually can help you. You know, everyone at some stage in their life or their career needs some assistance. And sometimes it's just a person there tapping you on the shoulder to remind you what you already know. But that's the key for poor performance. There isn't a silver bullet, you know, but the key is recognising you've got the problem and then reaching out and doing something with it. You can't fix this stuff in 5 minutes. Dealerships are very complex businesses, but once the desire to change is there, it flows.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, would you mind going back? I know you mentioned we talked through the data that you want to gather. Essentially, how much profitability is each position creating? How do you use that to change behavior? I know one of our topics is we want to make better decisions about maybe who to keep, which positions to hire. How do you think through that issue of managing the size and makeup of your staff based on the new simplified data gathering method?
Look, this is the bit that gets me so excited, Jonathan, because, you know, with my, you know, the generation I'm at, the age I'm at, most people would think I would be stuck in the past. But I've sort of made some changes some time ago. You know, about 10 years ago, I recognised that society had changed. What motivates people in their careers is different, you know, and there's a million books written about all this. But I'm just talking from my experience. And one thing I have seen, and I mean, this was a decade ago. Nothing I'm saying is something I've just woken up to today. Right. But the managing from the top down, the old school way of doing things, it's redundant. It really is gone because we have way more educated employees. Young guys and girls that come to us from school are way more educated than when I was started out, and they expect more and they want more, and they want to be trusted. You know, everyone's on about, oh, young people have a different point of view. Yes, they do. Of course they do. They grew up in a different time. They're more highly educated. They're more ambitious, and they're ready to get going. They're ready to get on the job. So it comes back to what you said earlier. Why would a dealer hold back to tell them, I need you to achieve this for me? So we manage from the bottom up, and it's unbelievable what happens. It's unbelievable what happens, that the the amount of supervision you do not need when you allow people to do the job. 95% of people really just want to know what it is that you expect of them, and let them go and do it. And then 3, give them the feedback. I keep coming back to the feedback. What is the goal? Let them get out of their way, let them do it. And then, but feedback to them very quickly, every day.
That makes a lot of sense. And now these metrics, I wondered if you could go back over your top 3 metrics for each of the key departments. Those key metrics that we're going to get them invested in, that we're gonna change the paradigm shift to be focused at those people on the bottom. What are those again?
You said departments. So straight away I'm stopping you there, because there aren't departments in small to medium businesses, and that's what most of the power sport world is. You know, car dealerships, 100 staff, you've got to have some departmentalisation. A small dealership like we have, 3 brands, 20 staff members, there's no departments, there's no managers. There's the general manager, but he's really, the best way to describe this is like a band with a conductor. You only need one conductor. You don't need a conductor for the rhythm section and a conductor for the percussion. There's just one conductor, and all the team members know their job. And in most dealerships, there's only probably one of those team members that doesn't generate income at some stage in their activities, and that's an administrative type person. But even those today, the days of having people sitting around and doing reports and things, everyone has to work. Even the owner, even the dealer principal or general manager has to work, has to generate income, has to sell something, has to fix something. The world is different. So we have to just focus back on those metrics. So they're not department metrics, because you may be an administrative person that sells F&I and has to fill in on Saturday morning, sell spare parts. Well, okay, how much F&I do they have to sell? How many dollars of gross profit in F&I do they have to generate? And how many dollars gross profit in parts do they have to generate? Tell them. Don't at the annual review say, oh, you're not doing so good. Tell them up front, and then every day let them know how they performed. So, month to date, year to date. You can have a bad month. We all do. This is cyclical business. Month to date, year to date. How are they going? So the 3 metrics are labour sales, what gross profit we're generating, parts sales, what gross profit, and that flows over onto T-shirts. We've got the T-shirts and stuff, the merchandise here. But at the end of the day, we're selling a product. So we're selling labour, we're selling a product, or we're selling a unit. What gross profit?
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I'm happy to go through with you is, let me know if you think this would be a good time to take some questions. We had a question from Lewis about getting more customers in the door. With your approach, this is a little bit different tack on what we've been focused on here, but I'd love to hear, how do you focus on getting customers in the door?
Jonathan, I don't want to sound like I'm one of those contrarian guys, because, when you hear these advertising people say, oh, we're going to drive more traffic through your door.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a toll gate. I don't make money from people walking through the door. So the same thing, the question I would ask that gentleman straight up is, what do you determine, what is your classification of a customer? Now, so bringing customers through the door isn't the right term. You've got the wrong mindset straight away. You want more prospects through the door, or do you want people visiting through the door? Because customers, you already know. If you want more customers through the door, get on the phone and call them. Hey, Jimmy, I haven't seen you for a while. Sarah, where you been? So that's a little bit confusing to me, that question. If you want more prospects, more people coming in that you want to convert to customers, that's easy. You know what it is that you do. You know what the product is that you sell. Send out the message, and there's lots of ways of doing it. Some simple things, just like Saturday mornings having a coffee van out the front, and people come, people aren't going to walk into your dealership because they've got nothing better to do. They've got an interest in the products you have to sell. So when they come through the door, what I would challenge you with, what activities are you doing to convert that prospect into a customer?
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Mark. That's a great answer. Makes a lot of sense. We've got another question about training, and I'd like to combine it with what we've already been discussing. We've been discussing how by measuring some very simple metrics, by changing the focus on cash and putting that on every employee, letting them share in the goal and putting their focus there, you can have this big change. It makes it safer in times of economic uncertainty because you're focused on just the fundamentals and not the fluff. The question was around how do you train in this way? So my question to you would be is, you talked about feedback. How do you give that feedback to your staff? How do you get them to grow in their mindset?
That's a fantastic question. I appreciate the person put it forward, because training is it's another one of those sort of paradigms or mindsets that's changed. We used to ship people off for a week, send them off to the manufacturer to learn about how to interpret spare parts, all this. Technology has vastly changed the ability to teach people the task. Now, remember right at the beginning, I talked about we're task focused in our dealerships. We spend all our energy on focusing on the task. Technology's made that so much easier, and staff actually are a lot easier to train today. But what does happen, and I can prove it, I've got so many examples, when you change the mindset in your dealership, the culture of dealership, so your staff are managing from the bottom up, they're actually coming to you with solutions to problems you don't even know about. And it blows you away. Your supervision costs dive because you just do not need people that are managers. You have a conductor. And the conductor has to be a general. So as far as training goes, the staff know that they're struggling. The feedback lets them know quickly, but they're only going to be struggling in some minor point. You as the conductor, that's your duty. It's your duty to get down and help them, work with them. And half the time, they actually already have worked out where they're struggling with. They come to you with a solution. Hey, boss, I would like to spend a little bit of time to understand how to interpret this spare part better or something. It's unbelievable how it turns around, and I've proven it over and over again.
No, that's excellent. One thing I love that you just said is that when you give your employees responsibility for the amount of cash they are bringing in, then they'll come to you with solutions to make your business profitable, instead of you having to think of everything and push it downward, is bubbling up to you. Is that
Jonathan? It's perfect. And if you would just spare me the time, because just one perfect example. One of the biggest problems in any dealership is work and process in the service department. It's just a matter. It consumes so much capital, and it holds back on revenue generation because invoices get slow to closed out, and we're waiting on a part, and there's always an excuse for all those work orders that haven't been dealt with. Once the technician knows that he needs to get things, they're great at coming and doing their work, they're good at doing the task and going home, but all of a sudden, hang on a minute, did that task that I completed today, did that add to my target? No, it didn't. Why not? They're onto the service writer or the warranty clerk. Why haven't you closed that out? Come on. You're holding me back. Come on. And so so what you've got is the people that are most able to fix your work in process problem. That is the technician that completes the task, is pushing the other team members to do their part. It's unbelievable how well it works. And I love it. Now, I'm a technician from the beginning, so I know the mindset of the workshop, and it takes a certain type of managing. You give them the responsibility, you give them the feedback, they will drive it for you.
That makes a lot of sense. We got another question around technicians and how you choose which ones to hire, or rather how you even find good people in times of economic uncertainty. So I wonder if there's maybe a shared question in there. Do you look for a type of person as you go about hiring techs? That's a brilliant
question, and whoever posed that, I would love to have a chat with them for about an hour afterwards, because from my conversations with dealers all around the world, it is probably the biggest frustration that dealerships have is employing good technicians. And there's a whole lot of cultural and social reasons why this industry has ended up where we're at. And it's actually another webinar, I think, Jonathan, on because I've walked this and being a technician, being through a training and everything. But look, the bottom line is, how I look at it isn't how do you find good technicians, because everyone's trying to find good technicians and there isn't enough good technicians to meet the market. That's just how it is. So it's a supply and demand problem. We can talk for an hour on how that's happened and what needs to change, but we are where we are. So the question you have to ask yourself as a dealer isn't, how do I find the technicians? How do I keep the technician? How do I keep the guy that's good? How do I know he's good? And then how do I keep him? And it comes back to what I said before. Are we selling 3 times their labour? If we are selling 3.5 times, they're very good. They're very efficient. If we're selling 2 times, they're not as good as what they say they are. Technicians are very good at talking a big game, but where are the results? Productivity and efficiency reports, charge hours, all that stuff doesn't work. End of the day, I'm giving you $1,000 a week. Am I getting 3,000 back? If that simple metric cuts out all the BS, and then it allows you to determine who you really do want to keep. And then you know what, you may have to give them $1,200 a week because you can justify, because you know how damn hard it is to go and get another one. I can't give anyone wisdom on how to go and get good technicians. Try to homegrown some. If you get a good one, you just do your hardest to lock them in. There's 2 problems that we face with technicians, and I can speak with confidence on this. I'd love to hear from dealers around the world how it is in different places. But one is that the social standing for technicians, or mechanics, isn't that strong anymore. Kids would prefer to go to university and become a doctor or something. Then second one is we don't pay them very well. For the amount of skills that a modern technician has to be able to, plug in and diagnose a problem with a CAN bus system on one of these new touring Harley Davidsons, you don't learn that in 5 minutes. You don't even learn it in 4 years of apprenticeship. I'm running classes for our technicians now internally, because even the automotive industry, even our manufacturers don't train them well. It takes so many years to get that point. Now, would we pay any other professional that took 10 years to get that level of experience peanuts?
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. We've got time for one more question. And that question is from Billy. How do you recommend handling poorly performing team members? How would you answer that?
Look, it all dovetails together, because what's poorly performing? It's human behaviour is a wonderful thing, and I've been studying it in depth for quite some time, as all managers do. And the older I get, the more I realise I don't know. So there's always something new. The first thing is, how do we know they're poorly performing? If there isn't a measurement of their performance, you don't know. It's just guesswork. Maybe it's a personality conflict. Who knows? It comes back to exactly what I said at the beginning. What is their goal? Yeah. How many dollars do they have to generate? Are they hitting it? If they're doing it, it doesn't matter whether you don't like their personality. They're doing their bit. If they are poor, if they're no good at their job and they don't understand their job, they won't hit their target. It's that simple. So all of a sudden, you sit down with Billy or Sam and the conversation is, mate, we had a chat 3 months ago. I told you what your target was. I let you know every day how you performed. You're nowhere near it. Are you going to be able to turn this around? And all of a sudden, you aren't the bad guy. You're just being honest with them. And it keeps coming right back. There's this massive paradigm change that has to come in dealership management. And we're past that point. We've got to have the resources, the tools, and the culture to manage from the bottom up. And there is no other way forward.
That's brilliant. Really, really good response. It makes a lot of sense. I loved how you said when someone is a poorly performing team member, you don't need to sit them down and yell at them. What you do is you've been showing them every day how they're doing toward their goal that you gave them. And then you can just ask. I mean, it's obvious that you're not hitting your goals. So how do we need to turn this around? I love that. That makes a ton of sense.
You use the football analogy. A bad quarterback knows he's about to get fired. No one has to tell him. He knows. The stats are telling him.
Yeah. It's just a matter of coaching, and you become the good guy.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Great answer. You know, so we're out of time for today. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you here today, Marc. It's your ability to explain these inner workings of a dealership and dealership performance so succinctly. You cut to the chase. You cut to the heart of the issue quickly, and it's been very helpful. You know, what we've covered today, what to measure and why, how to use that to make better decisions and to do better coaching of your staff, and then how to work with them to create a mentality and a whole paradigm shift of focusing on their contribution rather than just doing the mandate that was handed down to them. It's made a lot of sense. And for everyone on the webinar today, we'll be sending out the video, and we have found working with Marc so beneficial that we've convinced him to offer a free consultation to the first 5 people who sign up. Wow, we haven't put a dollar amount on it. It's not cheap. Let's put it that way. And we feel comfortable that anyone walking away is going to get an idea that's going to save them $10,000 this year. Yep. To take that next step, just go to blackpearl.com/consult and let us know how you like the webinar. Register for your free consultation with Marc. Again, that's blackpearl.com/consult. Black Pearl, as you know, spelled BLACKPURL.com. You have 5 days to do that, and would love to hear your feedback. We'll be in touch to schedule your free consultation. With that, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you next time.